Hi guys, right, today we're going to look at the passage from Luke 24 verses 13 to 35, which is all about the road to Emmaus. Now, what I want you to do now, in 2 seconds, is I want you to pause this video. I want you to grab any Bible you've got in the house, alright? I'm using this one, but you can use any one you've got, and either, if you're happy to read it yourself, or get somebody to read it to you, okay? And if you're very little and your mum and dad think, gosh, that's a long passage to read to my very little person, then the bit I would like you to read instead is I would like you to read verses 15 to 17, 15, 16 and 17, okay, and 18 as well, 15, 16, 17 and 18, and then I would like you to miss the bit in the middle, and I would like you to read 29, 30, 31 and 32. Okay, so if you've got little people, just read those ones. Everybody else read 13 to 35. So pause the video, do that, go to the loo if you need to as well, grab a drink, all right, bring it back, and then we'll do the proper talk. Okay, so I hope you've done all that, guys. I hope you've read the right bits, and I hope if you needed the loo, you've been to the loo as well. So, the road to Emmaus. It's one of my favourite passages in the Bible, and I've always been teased a bit because people say, oh, it's not very exciting, is it, Lane? But I actually found a friend of mine when I was texting her the other day about, I was doing this talk and I was telling her about it, and she was like, oh, it's one of my favourite bits of the Bible. So there are at least 2 of us in the world who love this passage, which is great. But I hope by the end of this that you'll love it too. And there's a couple of reasons why I love it. The first one is the people in it, the 2 disciples, the followers. I will tell you why they're my favourites in a minute, but they're one reason. And the other reason is because it shows us lots about Jesus, like lots about Jesus. And I don't have time to do a whole big talk on everything it tells us about Jesus. But if you are a bit older or an adult, then if you listen to a couple of the thoughts for the day that Johnny did earlier in the week, I think it might be Wednesday and Thursday's talks on the website, he does a really good job of going into this passage in a lot more detail, and he tells you lots of the reasons why this passage is so good, so I really recommend that to you. But let's go back to the first reason that I love this passage, and that's because of the followers. Okay, so there's 2 of them, we know that, and we know one of them is called Cleopas, but we don't know what the other one's called. So the reason I love this passage is because it's ordinary people, okay? 2 followers of Jesus. They're not super important. We've never heard of Cleopas before or afterwards. He's just here in this passage. And the other chap, bless him, doesn't even get his name mentioned. No idea who he is. He's just a follower. Okay? So they're not 2 of the top 12. Or anything. They're good followers of Jesus. They're people who were always around him, but we don't get to know who they are. Okay, so sometimes we don't feel very special, do we? I'm just Lane. I'm just so and so. I'm 6. I'm 9. I'm 42. I'm not very special. I haven't done anything. I don't play an instrument in church, or I'm not really good at reading, or I sometimes forget to pray. Well, none of that matters. If you're a follower of Jesus, you're a follower of Jesus and you're important. And this passage shows you're important because Jesus came and found these two followers on the road. They came to find Cleopas and his mate. He came to find them. He thought they were important enough to come and spend some time with. You know, this passage takes place on the day the women have gone to the tomb and they've found the tomb empty. And so Jesus has a busy day that day, okay? I'm not meaning to be flippant, but he's risen from the dead. He appears to Mary in the garden. He appears to Peter a bit later. And then he comes and sees these guys. That's how important they are. Now, they might not be important enough that we know who they are, but they were important to Jesus. And do you know what? So are you. You are important to Jesus. Doesn't matter who you are, how old you are, how good your reading is, whether you play an instrument, whether you pray every day. You are important to Jesus. He wants to come and spend time with you. So I think that's really encouraging. That's one of the reasons I love this passage. Okay? The second reason that I love these guys is that they don't really get it. They're not super on it. You know, when we get to verse 25, they've told Jesus all that's happened, and you know, and they're really confused by the whole thing. You know, there was an empty, you know, we know he died, then the tomb was empty, and then the women say they've seen him, but we haven't seen him, and then you know, and they're confused and they don't get it. And Jesus very nicely in verse 25 says, "You are foolish and slow to realise what is true." That is a very, very nice Jesus loving way of saying, what a pair of wallies. Because you're not getting it, are you? Hello, I'm here. I said I would rise from the dead, and I have. But Jesus doesn't do it like that, you see, because Jesus will never, ever call you a wally. He will never, ever, ever make you feel bad. What he will do is he will tell you the truth. And that's what Jesus says. He says, you haven't realised what's going on. And then he explains, he takes the words from the scriptures that they know and he explains what has gone on. And he said, all of these things have to happen. Look back at the Bible. He doesn't call it, they don't call it the Bible then. So look back at the scriptures. And he doesn't just go and read it. He explains it all to them. And he helps them. And then there is a great moment in verse 31 when they suddenly get it. Ding! Jesus breaks the bread and they go, we've seen that before, and it all makes sense. Bing! Penny drops. And at that point Jesus is like, good, they've got it, I can go. And he goes. But all that time that they didn't get it, Jesus was right with them, right next to them, explaining it. Jesus will never leave you in a muddle. You know, if there's stuff that you're worried about, you can talk to him. He will help you. He'll never leave you in a muddle. Okay? And of course now we know that Jesus never leaves us at all, because we know he's living with us by his Holy Spirit. But in this passage he had to go. He went and left those guys so that he could go and see other people. But he doesn't leave us at all now. We can always talk to him. That's amazing. And I love it because I love this passage and these followers, because that's how I feel sometimes. I'm very slow to get it. I don't really understand God sometimes. I don't understand what he's doing. I don't know what his plan is. And to be honest, it's all a bit much. But Jesus wants to be with me and help me through that. And he will never leave me in a muddle. That's really important and I love it. And I'm going to move on to why I like this passage, what it tells us about Jesus. Now, like I said, there's loads of reasons, amazing things about Jesus in this passage, but I am just going to pick one. And that is that Jesus is right there. He's right there with the followers. And they can't see it to start with, but he's there. He's walking with them. He's keeping them company. He's waiting for him, asking them to tell him what's wrong and waiting for their answer. He doesn't just appear to them and start talking at them. He waits, he listens, he asks what their problem is, they talk to him. All of that. He's right there with them like a really good friend. And the followers don't see that it's Jesus. They know there's a man there, they're talking to this man, but they don't realise it's Jesus, you know. But he never goes, oh, why can't you just see who I am? He doesn't do that. He's very patient, he's very loving, and he waits with them. He waits with them. He was going to go on, but he says they begged him to stay, and he waits with them until they see who he is. You know, and that's Jesus. He's loving, he's patient, he's kind, and he's always with you. Always with you. And it made me think a lot in this difficult time. Maybe there are days where you're feeling a bit down, a bit sad, maybe cross, frustrated, you know, and maybe it's hard to see where Jesus fits in with this virus, you know, like what's going on with that? I can't go out, can't go to school, I can't play, my football club stopped, you know, and that's hard. My poor mum is trying to teach me maths. Big shout out to the mums teaching maths, by the way, you're doing a great job. All right. What is going on, God? And you know what I like about this passage is that Jesus is there. They just didn't really see him. So where is Jesus for you at this time? What can you see him in? These guys saw him. They recognised him when he broke the bread. That was the moment for them. Oh, yeah, now we know. But where is Jesus for you right now? Where is he? Right in front of you. Well, do you know what? Never have people been walking to go on a walk these days, have they? I bet your mums and dads, they can't wait. You can't wait for them to take you out for a walk. You've never been so enthusiastic. Well, do you know what? When you go out on your walk, look around you. There's God right there. Trees, park, plants, animals. Malachi and I went for a little drive somewhere the other day and we got stopped because there were a load of cows on the road. Amazing creatures, cows, when they're up close in front of your car. Quite a moment for us. God is all around. He's right there in front of you in creation. Can remind you, I'm here. I'm here. What about somebody who sends you a little message? Somebody who sends you a little parcel? Someone who takes the time to ring or text you. Yes, that's your friends and your family checking you're alright, but it's also Jesus, isn't it? It's also Jesus saying, hey, you're not on your own. I've given you friends, I've given you family, they're right here. So my challenge for you this week is to find Jesus in the places where he is, really obviously in front of you, where perhaps it's hard to see him. And if you can find Jesus this week, how amazing would that be if you recognise him this week? So I want you to keep your eyes out, keep your ears out. Look for Jesus this week when it's hard, when it's difficult. He's right there. Look for him. All right, guys, see you soon.